Welcome everybody to episode 15 now of the Hammer and Nail Show. It's hard to believe it's been 16 weeks since we started this show. How you doing tonight, Jesse?
I'm doing fantastic. That's kind of crazy, man. I mean, that's, almost what, 3.5, 4 months strong. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, we've been carrying this whole off season's gone really fast, and I think it's the shows that we're doing together, and the stuff I've been doing with Grant. I know you have a lot of stuff going on your own site as well, so it's definitely been a fast off season, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. And so much has happened. And, this is obviously the first off season that I've done this platform. And so very blessed to have met everybody that I've met. And it's been a lot of fun. By far my favorite off season for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with that last part. As far as favorite off season, it's been a lot of fun, a lot of cool things happening. I heard today where Jason Aponte, I heard he got a press credential for some of the 49er stuff, so he's going to be out here at training camp, which that's an awesome deal. And I know there's some other stuff. I saw Leo Luna, he has something going on, which is really cool, and he'll be dropping that pretty soon. And I know you're with you have the credential with what is it you have the credential with? I know it's some MMA
UFC.
Stuff. UFC, which is great. And then we'll see where, I've got a few things that are, irons on the fire. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully I'll know that in the next week or two and be able to let you guys all in on that as well. So definitely a lot of fun stuff going on. But, kind of, we were talking about topics, and, I think we do have to hit on the topic that came up yesterday a little bit with Richard Sherman.
Yeah.
That was just a really bad situation all around. I don't know if you want to kind of maybe go through it or.
I mean, I think, obviously everybody at this point has had an opinion and thrown their thoughts out. When we put together the agenda, we put it together pretty early. And so it was definitely something that we wanted to hit on. But, I don't want to belabor what happened. Obviously everybody knows that part. But one thing I want to say, and this came out today, is John Lynch and the 49ers organization reaching out and basically saying that they give their full support to Sherman, whatever it is that he needs, they're there for him. And I just think that's fantastic. I mean, obviously as we've gone through the offseason, there's a lot of things that we've talked about and we question and we have opinions on and debate and all those things. But all of that aside, real life situation happened here, and the 49ers are doing the right thing and being a stand-up organization and saying, listen, Richard Sherman was recently with us. Once you're a 49er, you're a 49er for life. And anything that you need, your wife needs, your family needs, we got you. So we're praying for you. Do not hesitate to reach out. And I think that was a really big thing of the organization and John Lynch to extend the olive branch there. So, that's probably my biggest takeaway, and the coolest thing for me is seeing that happen from the 49ers organization.
Yeah, that's really good. There's only so much you can do when they're not a part of it, but when of your organization anymore, but to be able to reach out and still try to support them as much as they can, that's really what it's all about. It was a really bad situation all the way around, and was reporting on it a little bit as best as I could throughout the morning yesterday, and then stuff really got real in the afternoon when they put out the 911 call. That really kind of put everything into perspective as to really what was going on. And I'll just say from my standpoint, for me, my biggest concern was for the family. I am obviously concerned for Richard Sherman and his health, right? Because he's obviously going through some stuff, but just a family and dealing with that, having somewhat been through that type of a situation before, myself, knowing what that's like. And, I just hope everybody, again, like you said, everybody gets the help they need and they're all able to kind of come out of this on the better side.
Yeah. The other thing that came out today that is definitely a little heartbreaking is that this is an ongoing issue. Like, this wasn't just that was kind of my hope when I heard it, was like, okay, maybe he's, had one night where he had too much to drink, and, people can't handle their alcohol and they say crazy things and do crazy things. But it sounds like this is an ongoing issue, not necessarily the drinking, but some of the suicidal thoughts and whatever else he's going through. And, who knows what that pertains to? Maybe it's it's him being a little depressed that his football career is coming to an end. I don't know, but either way, I hope that he definitely gets the help that he needs. And, football is the furthest thing from my heart and my mind when these things happen. And, I just wish him all the best, him and his family.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% right there. So, hopefully, and I know that he was released today, and so he's out and out and about, and hopefully, like you said, he's going to be in tomorrow for another hearing and whatnot. But just hopefully everything works out and he gets the help that he needs, and his family is able to get the help that they need, and whatever happens, between them, that everybody comes out stronger because of it.
For sure.
Yep. Let's switch gears and get into the football stuff, and that's really what we wanted to hit on today. We had a bunch of different topics that we went through. We're going to get into a bunch of over-unders here in a few minutes, but first thing we wanted to kind of talk about was 2011 Alex Smith, and what that might have looked like if that Alex Smith, or even 2012 Alex Smith, was on the San Francisco 49ers in 2019, and how that result would be different. What are your thoughts on that? I know I've caught a little bit of them here and there on your Twitter, but I'll let you explain it a little bit more first, and I'll give my thoughts.
Yeah, well, that definitely got Twitter in a S-storm, to say the least. A lot of opinions on that, and actually was able to hold my first call on Twitter, whatever they are, like rooms or whatever, whatever they are. Mm-hmm. But I did that the night that I had tweeted that out, because so many people were talking about it and so many people were interested. But yeah, so my initial thought that I said was 2011 Alex Smith, if he's on the 2019 49ers instead of Jimmy Garoppolo, that the 49ers won the Super Bowl. And a lot of mixed feelings there, but here's my thought is I look at that 2019 team, right? And they had the perfect storm to have that game manager quarterback. And Jimmy Garoppolo is kind of that, right? And but he also takes a lot of risks. He almost has a little Brett Favre to him, even though he doesn't have the skills to get it done. And so for me, I look at it and say, okay, well, Alex Smith may not throw for as many yards as Jimmy did. He may not have the completion percentage. But the two things that he has is mobility, and he takes care of the ball. I think he had something like 7 total turnovers that year, fumbles included, to where Jimmy had 18 total turnovers, right? And so you add that in with the fact that it was like 70-something rushing yards through the 2 playoff games that year. And I just think to myself, that's exactly what the 49ers needed. They just needed a quarterback that could be a little mobile, run for a couple first downs, and protect the ball. And if those things are in place, they win that Super Bowl. And so to me, I think Alex Smith was the perfect quarterback for that team. And obviously we'll never know. I mean, it's all opinion based, but to me, I just think it's a perfect fit. So yeah, if 2011 Alex Smith was on the 2019 49ers, they win a Super Bowl in 2019.
Yeah, and I'd like to try to agree with you just to make it fun, or disagree with you. I mean, but I agree with you. I think that 2011 and 2012 Alex Smith were really underrated. In terms of he was really underrated in terms of what he was able to do. I think a lot of his success was he was doing things that he had done prior in his previous attempts at quarterback, with the 49ers. But he didn't have the right coach. He didn't have a coach that really understood the quarterback position. And, before that, I mean, Mike Nolan was awful with quarterbacks, and same thing with Mike Singletary. So it wasn't until he finally had Jim Harbaugh where he had a head coach who understood kind of what makes quarterbacks work. And Harbaugh put him in a lot of good situations. But you go back and you look at that team, especially at the end of the season, that 2011 team, and it was really Frank Gore running the ball and Kendall Hunter helping out every once in a while. But in the passing game, it was Michael Crabtree and Vernon Davis, and that was it. They just had those two. And yet he was able to put up 38 points, whatever it was, against New Orleans in the divisional game. And and he had him in position. They were in 2011 they were two Kyle Williams fumbles away from reaching the Super Bowl with Alex Smith. And I've seen a lot of folks, when I tweeted out that I agree with you, I got a lot of folks hitting me back and talking about how they were 1-13 in the championship game and how poorly they did and whatever. But shoot, that wasn't like they were playing against the it wasn't like they were playing against the 2019 Green Bay Packers defense either.
Right.
That was a New York Giants defense that had just gone in and taken out Aaron Rodgers the week before, and then the next game after went and took out Tom Brady. So, I agree with you. I think if he had been on the 2019 team with the 49ers with all that talent around him, you look at Deebo Samuel and George Kittle,
Emmanuel Sanders,
Kendrick Bourne, although there's nothing, nothing close. And even if you look at Smith in 2012, he was playing really well when he got hurt. He was really on the upswing at that point. And 2012 had a much better supporting cast, and that was partly why he was able to go into Green Bay and beat Aaron Rodgers in Week 1. That's why I have little doubt that they would at least be able to get back to the Super Bowl if Alex Smith had been their quarterback last year in 2019, the 49ers.
Yeah, absolutely. And the argument against was, well, to be fair, they did have Delaney Walker, right? So good tight end. But the argument against it is that Alex Smith was 1 of 13, as you alluded to, on third downs, as far as getting conversions for first downs. And then that he lost to Eli Manning. And that Giants team, if you go back and look at the defense, they were ranked like 26th in the league or whatever. All that's fine and dandy. But if you remember that Giants team, first of all, they limped into the playoffs. I think they were like 9-7. They made it to the playoffs. But those final 5 games, the 2 before the playoffs and the 3 in the playoffs, not a single game did they allow over 20 points. They only gave up an average of 16.8 points a game, and that was against the likes of, to your point, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady were included in that. Listen, that Giants defense, I don't care what the rankings were, they were a strong, formidable, championship-proven defense. So, like, all of that is irrelevant to me. And then I look at the Kansas City Chiefs, and their defense, the final 5 games, didn't give up less than 20 points. And the only team that they gave only 20 points up to were, you guessed it, Jimmy Garoppolo's 49ers. Every other game, 24, 31, 38. Like, they were giving up plenty of points going into and during the playoffs. So Alex Smith, if he's able to play against that defense and the way that he showed out against New Orleans the week prior, again, it was in New York. You had the 2 fumbles of Kyle Williams. It was a sloppy, rainy game from what I remember. And I just feel like he would have gotten it done. I really do.
Yeah, I think he would have been able to as well. And it's I know it's all hypothetical here, but I really liked Alex Smith at the end. I was one of those guys who was ready to get rid of him and not want him to come back when Harbaugh took over. And I was like, what's Harbaugh doing when he first said Alex Smith's going to be our quarterback? But he kind of won me over, through it. And, he was playing really well. And I know that we look at that season and we're like, I don't think they make it to the Super Bowl in 2012 without, even if he is the quarterback and it's instead of Kaepernick. But I don't know how when you really go back and you look at it, he'd already beaten Green Bay in Green Bay, so it's not like you can say he was going to lose to Green Bay in the playoffs.
Right.
And who knows what would have happened in that game in Atlanta. But even in the game in Atlanta, Kaepernick threw for under 200 yards. I know they came from behind, but Kaepernick threw for under 200 yards, and Frank Gore had a big day. It was just a typical 2012, 2011 49er win where the running back carried the day, and the quarterback just had to make a couple of throws. I don't see as much difference between those two guys as a lot of people seem to want to make it.
Yeah, the other thing though too is, again, we're talking 2011, versus 2019. But Alex Smith, after that, once he got to the playoffs, I mean, he did very well in the playoffs. People want to point to his record being like 3-5, But the reality is one of those losses, he put up 44 points against the Colts, threw for like 360 something yards and 4 touchdowns in a loss. It's like, well, what more did you want him to do in that scenario? He was really good in the playoffs. So if he was in those situations, I really believe that he would have done just fine.
Yeah, and in that game you're talking about, that where the Colts game, and they were way ahead in that game, if I remember, and the defense had kind of fallen apart. So, yeah, and Raymond over here, he says that that NFC Championship game was on his, I guess the Giants was on his birthday. That's really bad. I mean, that was a bad one, and I've been through some bad 49ers losses, but thank gosh my birthday is is after the football season, so I don't have to have any bad 49er losses coincide with the birthday. That'd be awful.
You know what's actually messed up about that whole situation is, so I used to listen to 95.7 The Game on my phone. I had an app on my phone because I lived in Portland, Oregon, right? But I wanted to catch the local 49er stuff, so I would listen to it. And I would call into their night show. It was like a Friday night show. And I remember the host at the time was asking, the specific question he was asking is, during this championship game, what is going to be the X factor? Everybody's calling in, Alex Smith, Vernon Davis, whoever. And I called in and I said, the X factor is going to be Ted Ginn Jr. not playing. I just had a feeling that something was not, because he was so good. And my thought was not that the fumbles were going to happen. Of course, I did not have the foresight for that. But my thought is that he flipped the field so much in the 49ers' favor that was going to be an issue. And I hate that I was even close to being right about any of that.
Yeah. That's a bad time to be right there, Jesse.
That's exactly not the one.
That's exactly what ended up happening there. And that was one of the
that's one I wish I would have taken an L on for sure.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I was plugging something in here. Yeah, no, I agree. That was a rough one. That loss, and then the loss in 2013 to Seattle. Those were just devastating losses. The Super Bowl loss wasn't as harsh as the championship game loss.
Yeah, for some reason it was that. You're right. That Seahawks loss. Again, I'm surrounded by Seahawks fans, so that was not a fun few weeks for me either.
Yeah. No, I would. I'd say that at my age, I get more worried in the championship games than I do in the Super Bowls. It's just a matter of, for me, it's seeing the team get where I could watch the team play throughout the whole season. They've gotten to the last game. There's not going to be another game after that, and my team's playing, so I'm kind of happy with that.
Yeah.
But still, the Super Bowl against the Chiefs was bad though, because you're up 20. You're sitting there and you're looking at it. You're up 20-10 with the ball. After that turnover, you're like, they're going to win the Super Bowl, and then 30 minutes later, we're all trying not to break our TVs.
dude. That's the worst part, is when you make it and you should win, right? It's always the what ifs. Well, what if this?
Yes.
What if this was different? What if this call was different? And the first thing that you always want to go to is the refs. The refs screwed us, right? But there's so many things that happen throughout a game that definitely could change the outcome of it. But it's definitely frustrating when you get there and you feel like you were the better team and you should have won, and then you didn't. That's so frustrating.
Yeah. And that was more of last year's, because that Ravens game, I think the 49ers, if they played that game 5 times, they probably beat that team 4 times, because they were the better team in that Ravens game, and they just fell apart at the beginning of the game for a lot of different reasons. But they were just down by so much; it just didn't hurt as bad. I guess is really the way that it works out.
Yeah, for sure.
But you want to jump into some of these over and unders that we were setting up?
Let's do it.
All right. So the first one that we have here is Nick Bosa, over under 10.5 sacks on the season.
Okay, so my thought on this is, so he had 9.5 sacks his rookie year, I believe, and they have an extra game. So I think 10. If the over under was 9.5, I would say perfect. Yeah, he's getting at least 10. But that 10.5, it's so hard to take that. I think that he's not going to play a lot early on in the season. I think he's going to play around 40 to 60% of the snaps for the first few weeks. And I think that definitely can hurt his total. Plus, for some reason, he does a really good job of corralling the quarterback, and then somebody else cleans it up. So I'm going to say under 10.5, but he gets right to 10.
Okay, so you've got him just under then.
Yes, just under.
Yeah, and I would say that I think you're right there. It's funny when we look at these, because I'm looking at all these that we put together, and I'm forgetting the fact that we have an extra game to watch this year. I'm forgetting that they're 17 instead of 16, so that kind of changes the numbers throughout the season as you look at it, right? But I'm going to say under as well. You know, even as good as Bosa was in 2019, he didn't come up with a ton of sacks. I think it was either 9 or 9.5 is right. What the number is. I don't really see him getting above that number. You know, like Mr. Vegemite says here, you know, he goes with the under as well. And he thinks that they're going to limit the snaps despite the 17, you know, which is going to be a part of that, even though it's a 17-game season.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be some of that going on. You know, it'll be interesting to see how Bosa comes back, because when he came back after in his rookie season, he had been out the whole year. The season before, he played. They didn't really hold him back at all. He was playing a ton of snaps right out of the gate. That was different, though. That was a core injury instead of a knee injury. So I think that might change the way that they bring him along. So I kind of agree with what both of you have said. I think there's going to be a snap count on him, especially early in the season, to try to make sure they get him to that 17th week.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the right thing to do. Also, I remember him he was out of football shape. That first week I was in Tampa watching that game, and he just looked gassed at times. And that continued really for the first 3-4 games. They really made him push through and get his conditioning up. And that's just the worst thing, I think, when you have a lower extremity injury. I think it's the worst thing you can do to a player. So he's not going to be in the best football shape. I'm sure he's in fantastic shape, but football shape, I do not believe that he will be in that great a football shape to at least start. And so I believe that will hinder his snap count.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. And Monica says that she's going to take the over on Bosa. So she thinks that he's going to get over 10.5.
That's it right there. That's it.
Yeah, even if he doesn't get the over, look at the players around him, the sacks, because he'll contribute to those numbers, and his pressures are vital. And I agree with that. I think he is going to make people around him better. I don't know how much. Well, it's going to be it'll be different to see. I think we're going to see some improvement out of Javon Kinlaw, but they only got to play a game and about a quarter of the next game together last year. We didn't really see a whole lot, and I know that was right out the gate for Kinlaw, but. I think the pass rush overall is going to be better. They have and I don't know how much of it's going to be. I would say is going to be attributed to Bosa, or we got Ebicom out there, which allows them to slide Armstead inside more often, like he should be used. And so when I put my stuff together, I actually put down. I had an article about a month or so ago where I actually said that Ebicom is the bigger piece to look at when it comes to the success of their pass rush, because of his ability to slide Armstead inside. Because hopefully you get Armstead inside and he can work in there, and then that'll help out Kinlaw or whoever's rushing from the other interior spot, because those guys really have to work together, and then you got Bosa out there as well. So, I just think that Ebicom getting Armstead going is really what's going to help out their pass rush the most.
Yeah, that's it, right? Those turbo packages. And plus, I expect a lot of cover one, a lot of blitzing. I think that'll be helpful. And the Ebicom thing is spot on, because really when the 49ers pass rush was at its best, it was when Dee Ford was healthy. As soon as Dee Ford was not on the field, they were very pedestrian, right? Bosa especially, as far as getting to the quarterback. So if Ebicom can come in and play even close to what Dee Ford was, then they can wreak havoc. So if Bosa doesn't get to double digits, do you think anybody on that defense gets to double digits?
Yeah, sure. I think again, you could see a guy like Armstead possibly, if Ebicom does do what he's expected to do, and he's able to kind of get Armstead going because he's outside and pushing him in, there's a possibility. I mean, that's what happened in 2019, right? You had about 9 sacks for for Bosa 9.5, and then you had Armstead at 10. So he's a guy that he could potentially be your double digit guy. I like what Ebicom brings to the table too, though, because it'll be interesting to see what moves he puts into his repertoire, because he doesn't have much right now coming in, because he's never really been doing this pass rushing thing full time.
Yeah.
But he's going to be a big help to this defense in terms of dealing with Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson and these guys that move around a lot. That's where he's going to that's the other big thing that he brings to the table, because he's just so quick and he does such a good job of shutting offensive linemen and getting after them when they move. So I would say the second one is going to, you're looking at Armstead probably having to be the number 2 guy, or the guy that maybe even leads them.
Well, I don't believe this one was on our list, but Monica wants to know, wants us to do an over-under on Kinlaw. Let's go 3.5 sacks for Kinlaw, over-under.
3.5 sacks for Kinlaw, over-under.
What did he have, like 2 his rookie season? 2.5, something like that?
He had 1.5.
1.5, there we go. So 3.5, over-under.
I would almost say that that's going to be either an under or a push. I don't really see him getting too far above that.
Yeah. 3.75 over under.
Yeah. No, I think if he can get to 3.5, I mean, I think you've got to look at that as a big improvement for him. And the reason I say that is because he just wasn't good last year on the pass rush, right? He was those 1.5 sacks that he did come up with were both in the Saints game, and he really wasn't good at getting to the quarterback at all either. He only had 4 quarterback hits on the season,
right?
And in that game, and 2 of them came in that. So he had all of his sacks came in that game, and half of his quarterback hits came in that. And,
yeah.
And all of that came against the backup quarterbacks after Drew Brees went out, and you had guys that were holding the ball a little bit longer. So, I think he's a really good run defender. He just doesn't have the moves in the pass rush, and so I'm going to go under. I'm going to say 3, because 3.5 is the number, so I'll go with 3. I'm going to say
okay.
Under.
I'll go with over.
How about you?
I think he gets to 4. 4 is the number that I think he gets to. I think Harold says it perfectly. Bosa will open up opportunities for everybody else. I agree with that. And not only Bosa, but you just mentioned Ebicom. Imagine last year if Ford's healthy, Bosa's healthy all year long. I think Kinlaw probably could have gotten there anyways. So if Ebicom can be decent, Bosa can be healthy, I think that opens up his game and allows him to get 2-4, and that's what I'll stick with.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. So you're going with the over with 4.
Me and him, man. It's almost like I'm somehow sending this from Twitter as I'm saying it. It's amazing. Thank you, Mr. Vegemite. Great name too, by the way.
It's going from Florida to Australia like that. Snap of fingers. I get what you're saying, and those edge guys are gonna might help them out a little bit. It just the one thing that I'm worried about with this pass rush is you don't have that interior pressure guy like you had when you had DeForest Buckner in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
He was just so good, and I think he still got his sacks, but I think when you throw in the fact that they had him rushing inside and you had D Ford on the other, those 2 guys are really, could have been part of the other part that opened up Armstead so much. So it'll be interesting to see as the season plays out, really, if this thing plays to the way that they're looking,
Plus, it's hard too because we don't know what that third down is going to look like. They have 3 very capable defensive tackles in that spot, and 2 of the 3 for sure can rush the passer. Kinlaw is probably the worst out of the 3 at rushing the passer, so maybe he's not even in there on third down. So that definitely could play a factor as well. Yeah,
and if he's not in there, who do you put in there?
Oh, I mean, I would like to say. Well, I think Jones is probably the most natural pass rusher, but he's for sure going to play on downs 1 and 2. So, probably a flip between Kinlaw and I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on their third guy. What's his name?
Kevin Givens?
Givens. There. Gosh, yeah. I don't know. I couldn't rack his name up right now. Givens. Yeah, Givens is a pretty damn good pass rusher in his own right. And I think he could get those third down snaps, to be real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be I'm looking forward to seeing how that group comes together, because there's a lot of, I think they have a lot of depth in the middle. They're a little thin on the edges, but they're really deep on the interior. So it's going to be, I'm a little worried. That's why, Justin Houston would be a great pickup if they could somehow squeeze him in, right before the season starts. I think that's probably when he's going to finally decide to sign with somebody. I think he's the guy that's going to wait and try to get through preseason. And then Hyder is not with the 49ers. He actually was signed by our friends up in Seattle, so he's a Seahawk.
They are not our friends.
Our friends to the north. All right. So let's jump over to the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
And let's take a look at Brandon Ayuk. Yeah. And for Brandon Ayuk, we're looking at over or under 1,000 yards.
Man. Okay. I think Trey Lance is starting week 1. You know me, I've been very bullish on that. So because of that, I believe that's going to open up Ayuk to run a lot more routes. Obviously, we know Jimmy doesn't throw past 10 yards outside the numbers. Lance can certainly make those throws. And he can get the ball deep. He can push it deep. And I believe Ayuk definitely can be our deep receiver. So with all those things added in, being year 2, most receivers outside of Jefferson, apparently, most receivers struggle a little bit in year 1, and they really start to hit their strides year 2 and year 3. So I believe that he will be a much more polished player. He'll have consistency at the quarterback position. And yeah, I think not only will he eclipse 1,000, but I think he eclipses 1,100.
Okay. I'm going to say that I think he's going to get over 1,000. I think he probably would have gotten over or close. He would have been right at almost 1,000 last year if he just had played all 16 games. He was, even having to play with Jimmy Garoppolo and Nick Mullins and C.J. Beathard, he was still, at 750 yards, just under 750 yards on the season in only 12 games. So,
yeah,
he's a guy. He's a guy who I think is a solid number 1 receiver, and I would say I think his number should be even higher than 1,100. Really, Jesse. I think if he plays up to his potential and he's given the ball like it should be, I'd put him around 1,200. Really, would be my expectation for him, because my expectation of Brandon Ayuk is that he's a number 1 receiver in the NFL, and that's a guy who should be putting up somewhere between 1,100 and 1,200 yards a season.
I feel like I'm in an auction. I see your 1,200,
and I
1,300.
I got 1,300. yeah. So I mean, I think we're both high on him, and if he could just stay healthy, and I think I agree with you. If Trey Lance is the quarterback, I think his numbers are definitely going to be in that ballpark, because he's the guy that he can get hit deep and get open, and if Lance just puts it on him accurately like he's done in the past, where it did up in North Dakota. I think it'll put some big numbers up for him.
Yeah, I do too.
And Monica says that Jerry Rice says he's going to have a monster year, and who here is going to argue with the best wide receiver of all time? Well, I will. I'm like, not me. No, I agree. I'm really bullish on Ayuk, and I've been saying it throughout the offseason. So, in fact, when you look at it, his numbers were really close to what Jerry Rice did as a rookie. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that Ayuk's career is going to end up being Jerry Rice, but the numbers, I think he was right behind Jerry Rice for most yards in the team's history from a rookie. So, yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. All right, let's jump on to the next one. We're going to stay on the offensive side of the ball. And this one's a little bit tougher. 900 rushing yards for Raheem Mostert this season.
Okay, so I believe the most he rushed for was around 760 or so. Shoot. You know what? Yeah, this one is tough. I'm going to go over, but I don't feel good about it. 17 games, figure he'll miss a couple. I also think it's a very crowded backfield. You're adding, I guess my thought is adding Trey Lance really helps everybody. I believe that it helps Ayuk in the pass game, and I believe that it'll help Mostert and all these running backs. So I'm going to take the over reluctantly.
Okay, you're going to go with the over. And if you look at what he did last season, he only played 8 games. If he keeps it on that pace and he's able to play, 16 games, 15 games, I think he's going to make it.
Yeah, he could put up like 1,500 yards in that case, probably.
Yeah, he was at 521 last year, and
Oh, was it 521? Okay.
Yeah.
Why did I think 7 something?
Because in 2019 that was his career high, 772. But he also had 130. He had more carries that season. Because in that season he ran the ball. I think he averaged under 9 carries per game. Throughout the course of that season, and he had a couple of big games here and there. But if they keep him around that number of carries, I'm going to say Raheem Mostert under 900 yards.
Okay.
And the reason I'm going to say under for him is I think you're going to see some of his yards getting chewed up by other guys.
For sure.
Even if he's able to stay healthy, I think there's going to be a bit more of a running back by committee this year, and you're going to see Trey Sermon get the ball quite a bit. Wayne Gallman's a guy who I think I think Trey Sermon and Wayne Gallman are going to be fighting for that Jeff Wilson Jr. type role, that bruiser back kind of thing. And, and so those guys are going to take carries away from him. So I'm going to, even though I say under 900, I think it's going to play out better for the 49ers because the yards that he is going to be able to stay fresher. He's going to be able to still have those explosive plays that we come to expect from Mostert. It's just that he's not going to be taking the beating necessarily that he might have taken in the past.
For sure.
So let's go under with this one, and I'm going to say Trey Sermon or Wayne Gallman's going to be right behind him in yards actually this season. Sorry, Monica. She said I was breaking her heart over here.
Yeah, not a fan of Jack right now.
No, and Harold is saying that he thinks it's going to be the over as long as Cal gives him the opportunities, and that's my reason for saying under.
Yeah, it's close. That's the hard thing is a lot of these are very, very hard to choose, and you can see it going either way. So,
yeah, exactly. So let's go on, and this is everybody's favorite person right here. This guy brings everybody to the table when it comes to 49ers talk, and we're going to go with 3.5 starts for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Under. He's not playing a single game. He's not starting a single game this year. It's not going to happen. I don't see Trey Lance getting hurt. I don't see Trey Lance not starting week 1. He's not starting a single game. So if that was over under half, I'm taking the under.
Regardless, you've got the under.
Yeah.
And I agree with you that it's going to be the under. Even if he starts the first couple of games, I don't see him getting past 4. Getting to 4. I think 3 starts is going to be the most we see from him. But I'm kind of with you. If Trey Lance comes in and shows himself to be the guy that it sounds like he was during OTAs, they're going to be close to each other, and you're not going to see any of Jimmy Garoppolo this year. So we both have the under on this one. 3.5 for Jimmy G. Sorry, Jimmy G fans, you're not going to see much of him this year.
Sorry, all 3 Jimmy fans.
There you go. And then just stepping back to our last topic, we were talking about the running backs, and Mike mentions here about time somebody's talking Gallman didn't he carry the Giants last year?
Yeah.
I don't know if he necessarily carried the Giants, but he did really well. And the thing that I looked at when I liked about it was when you look at his numbers, he averaged 2.5 yards per carry after contact. Which would have led all of the 49ers running backs last year. I think the only one who had a bigger number than that was Deebo Samuel, who we kind of joke about and say he's a running back he's a wide receiver in a running back body. But yeah, Gallman, I think Gallman is a guy who he's kind of the forgotten guy in this whole mix, right? You just don't hear his name brought up very much. And heck, there's times when we're doing this and I'm just stumbling over myself trying to remember what his name is to begin with. So I think he's going to be an interesting find for them. And then last but not least, and we're going to go back over to the defense, and we've got 14 and a half games played for Jason Verrett.
Why don't you go first on this one? I want to see what your thoughts are.
All right. When it comes to this one, I'm going under on this. I don't think that Jason Verrett's going to play more than 14 games in the regular season. He's never done this in back-to-back seasons where he's been able to play double-digit games. So I'm going to go with the under. I don't see all of a sudden that trend changing. I hope for his case and for the 49ers that it does. I just don't see that happening though. I think we're going to see a lot of Ambry Thomas.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I don't think it's going to be much under. I don't think he's going to have a catastrophic injury or something like that. I just think nicks and dings are going to happen throughout the season, especially a 17-game season. And there's going to be a lot of people that miss a game here or there. It's just the way that the season's going to go, not just for the 49ers, but everybody. It's a big reason why I think that the Rams finished last in the division, because I don't think they have the depth that they need to make it through a 17-game season. So that being said, yeah, I'm going to take the under, but I'm going to put him right at 14. I just don't. Again, I see him playing most of the season. I'm sure he'll be just fine come playoff time, but especially some of these older guys that have had injuries in the past, they might have to take a game or two throughout the season just to keep going. So I will go slightly under.
Okay, yeah, and I can see that. I just look at his history, and his history is just really bad when it comes to this, unfortunately. So yeah. And we'll see what happens there. Let's hope for his sake. I'll knock on wood because Mr. Vegemite said I'm going to jinx him, so I'm knocking on the table to get rid of what I said. We're going to go ahead and hope that he can stay healthy. And I know he's betting on himself this year too. And so,
for sure, yeah. So I mean, he's going to try to play no matter what, I would assume.
Yeah, he's going to definitely be trying. Obviously, these guys want. He's not going to be. It's not a situation where he's not going to be playing if he can at all get himself out there. So yeah. But I think we both took the under on that one. So let's see how these. We'll come back in January, and I'm saving these questions, so we'll be able to come back and let see who's right and be able to make fun of ourselves if we're brutally wrong.
Sure.
And we
sure.
Can come in here. We can come in here and tease Monica about being wrong about the what was it, the over and under on Bosa and Kinlaw.
Yeah.
I'm joking around, but yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I know we started off the show, we were talking about how fast this off season's gone, and it's hard to believe I looked at the calendar today. We're 2 weeks away from these guys starting to report to camp.
That's crazy.
It's only 2.5 weeks, and they're actually going to be on the practice field. So we're getting really close, and it's going to be a lot of fun once those practices start to come in here and have something to talk about that has actually taken place on the field for a change.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm excited for that. A lot of speculation. It's been a lot of fun. It's hard to come up with topics every week. It really is. So speaking of that, we actually won't have the show next week. I will be out of town. The week after that, we'll resume, though, as long as you don't have anything going on. So we'll take a 1-week hiatus, and we'll make everybody miss us and want the show back. So that's how it works.
That's right. That's what happens, right? You take a break for a week, and then everybody's like, craving their hammer and nails and wanting to get on there. So, yeah, no, that'll be hopefully everybody will have a good week next week, and we'll come back the week after and lay it down for them. And we're going to be right at the start, right at the reporting date, I think, when we come back then.
It's perfect. I'm excited.
That'll be great. I think one last thing. I think I'm going to do. I think I'll be doing a call-in show on Saturday since our boss is out. I reached out to him and said, "Hey, do you mind me pinch hitting for you because people want to talk?" So there might be a call-in show after all on Saturday morning. I'll throw that out if it does come to fruition. I just got to make sure my kids are fed still.
There it goes. When the boss is away, the kids will play.
hey, I asked him. I wanted to make sure because I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I know the weekends is definitely the week of the cone zone. The cone phone on Saturday and Sunday, and I want to make sure that I'm respectful of that and whatnot. So
absolutely, well, good.
No, but it's like we said, we started off this thing saying how crazy it's been, how fast it's been, and I'll just finish this off by thanking everybody that joined. The comment section was a lot of fun tonight. You guys had some good insight as well. And if you're already subscribed to the channel, I appreciate it. If you have friends and people that maybe aren't, if you can get them subscribed to this thing so we can get to 1,000, that'd be great, because it'd be great to be able to start generating a little bit of extra on the side with that. And just my whole goal is to get to 1,000 by the time we get to the season. So
yeah, absolutely,
that'd be fantastic.
And Monica, you asked where I got the hat. I forget where I got it. I can send you, if you send me an email. My email is on my channel page. I know that you follow there. Send me an email and I'll shoot the link over to you.
Yeah, Jessie's got quite the hat collection. So.
And hats and socks. I'm not a jersey guy, but I do buy a lot of socks. I've got a lot of socks with players' numbers or names on them, or faces even, and hats. Those are kind of my things. So.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, the hats are cool. I've never been a jersey guy. I've never had a jersey. I don't know, just never got into it. But the hats, definitely I'm with you on the hats. I got a couple shirts and I like the socks. I like goofy socks. So having somebody's face on my socks, whatever, that'd be kind of cool, especially for like a work day, right?
Yeah. That was my Father's Day present for my wife. She got me 3 pairs of socks. One pair had the one kid's face on them. The other pair had the other kid's face. And then the other one had our puppy's face on it. So I wear those to work. It's hilarious.
Oh, there you go. If anybody asks you if you have kids, you can just pull up your socks.
Yeah, here we go, right?
That's pretty cool. Yeah, no, I actually got a pair myself for Christmas, talking about socks. They basically on the bottom of it says, don't bother me. It's the football game's on. And it's on the bottom of the socks, so you can only see.
So you got your feet propped up.
I
like it.
Exactly. So no, it's fun, good times. But again, thank you everybody for joining. I know Jesse's got to jump off and go over to, you got another show on your channel tonight.
Yeah, for sure. Tap in Last Second Sports. We'll start around 10:30. We're doing Mount Rushmore of coaches, head coaches, and we'll talk a couple other little loose football topics and maybe some NBA finals. So definitely don't miss it. Come over there, tap in, and we appreciate everybody for tuning in. As far as us together, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yep. Have a good night, everybody.